Hi everyone, welcome to our final report on student housing and off-campus housing in the Boston area. So for question overview, in our project we were given 5 base questions. We were able to analyze and find results for all questions. We also included extra questions to answer given the CSV files. For this presentation, we will only be going through 4 questions out of the 7 for the sake of time. All of our data is found on Analyze Boston, a public data set found easily online. We were given the data set as a part of the Spark team. For the sake of time, this presentation will not be going through a lot of the data cleaning and processing. This is more result focused. Please look at our README to find all steps.
Now we can go over to question 1, which is what are housing conditions for student living off campus? How many students per unit is a student unit managed by bad landlord, and how many buildings the violation have the student housed in? The goal of this is basically to help identify clusters of addresses where students and violations overlap, and by analyzing these geographic patterns, we aim to provide some actionable insight for university administrator, city inspector, or housing authority to improve on the enforcement of the community standard. In here, we have a graph showing the k-mean, where k equals 5, to group the addresses based on geographic coordinates, and in the orange section basically shows Alton and etc. On the next page, I'm going to be exploring more in depth about what these clusters mean. In here, we separated into 5 different clusters. Blue, which is cluster 0, basically contains the diverse, which represent the central area of the Boston, South Boston. And cluster 1, which is orange, is basically Alton, which is a small localized community. Green, which is a so basically Fenway and the neighborhood between there, and red, which is where most of the clustering are contained, which is the larger cluster, which where most of the violation and student housing are correlated in, and the purple one basically shows another area, like we mentioned before, which is the Southwest University, which shows a decent amount of violation and student housing correlation between both of them.
So on to the next question. The next question aims to answer what types of violations are happening at each ward and also most violations for each ward. We were given a CSV of all violations. First, we removed rows with missing violations, descriptions, and standardized the ward entries. Next, we grouped the data by violation category and ward, which allowed us to see the number of violations per category across the city. Then we used a trigram model with Count Vectorizer to extract the 50 most frequent 3-word phrases. These trigrams helped us to understand common patterns in violations that are reported. We wrote a function to categorize each violation based on keywords in the descriptions. These categories included things like permit issues, property maintenance, unsafe conditions, electrical violations, and more. For our visualization, we created an interactive visualization on Flourish. The one on the right is just a picture, but you are able to sort by different categories of violations in the link. This can be found on README. Onto the results. One of the most striking findings was that permit issues dominated across nearly all wards. This indicated a citywide problem with either public understanding or enforcement of permit laws. As a solution, we suggest expanding public awareness programs and maybe educational outreach about building regulations. After permit issue, property maintenance violations were the second most common. These seem to be more localized. For example, Ward 21, where Boston University is located, had a spike in maintenance problems, likely due to student housing. Interestingly, in Mattapan, or Ward 14, we've noticed a higher number of water violations. This reflects known infrastructure issues in that area, such as aging plumbing and even concerns about lead in the water. We visualize all of this at the Flourish link shown. It really helped to bring out ward-level trends and patterns across violations type.
For question 5, we started by analyzing how property values have changed over time. From 2016 to 2024, the average asset value of student housing is between 2.3 million and 2.6 million, showing overall stability. But when we looked at the median values, rose more modestly from 540K to 635K. This growing gap between average and median suggests a small number of ultra expensive properties are pulling the average up. Most student housing, in contrast, experience only gradual increases. This shows why both metrics, mean and median, are necessary to capture the market dynamics. To extend the analysis, we built a logistic regression model to classify whether a 2024 student property is luxury. We used features like land size, living area, year built, a number of units, and parking spots. The model achieved 94.8% accuracy, with non-parking being the most influential predictor. We also mapped out luxury housing by zip code. Surprisingly, Roxbury, zip code 02119, had the highest predicted concentration of luxury student housing, more than Beacon Hill or downtown. This result likely reflects a model limitation, since non-parking was the most important predictor. The model favored areas where off-street parking is more common. Roxbury properties tend to have more land and therefore more parking, so they were more likely to be flagged as luxury, even if in reality they wouldn't be considered high-end. The model didn't include context like neighborhood income, housing demand, or proximity to campus, which are critical for understanding real-world luxury.
Lastly, we have a question especially important for the renters out there, and the problem is on the spectrum of violations and severity in regards to the worst landlord classifications. What we really wanted to highlight are some of the renters or landlords who are not like suitable for people who are looking for an apartment or so. For this specific bit, our data actually origins from boston.gov. In particular, we use their violations dataset as well as their ownership of properties dataset. The violation types are, some of them at least, are certification of inspection, unsafe and dangerous, failure to obtain permit, modifications, fire protections, maintenance, and blah, blah, blah. The owner's record on that side contains merged, so we had to merge the data set in boston.gov on the owner side and the violations. So we got that History Rivera LLC has some of the most number of violations, but only in respects to one specific violation type, which is certificate of inspection. And you can see the rest of the violations of the top 5 violators listed in the graph to the right. We also ran a logistic regression model on getting the repeat violations of owners, and our logistic regression achieved a score of approximately 76%. Next, we will move on to the difficulties and the next steps we were planning on doing. For the difficulties, we were not able to merge 100% of our violations dataset with the ownership dataset, and this could be due to syntactical errors or just typos. But 10% is a huge gap if you look at a dataset that big. And in our future steps, we would want to recover as many of these lost data sets as possible. Also, we tried to run k-means clustering of violation patterns, and you can see that we don't really have enough number of clusters, which is a problem. And this is also because of how the data is structured, and you can have a more precise read about it in the README, but it is a definite area that we would like to focus on in our next steps. Thank you.